Your applause said it all. It was a brilliant session. You know, I don't know if you all got this feeling, but when Michael spoke, I kept nodding my head and said, yes, 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 absolutely right. And then when Suman spoke, I said, yes, 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 it's absolutely right.
Coward.
And then Michael, while Suman was holding forth on the last point that she was making about ethics, precaution, he said that's the worst two words to be used.
No. That's not what I said. The worst two words in the English language are precautionary principles. I'm fine with ethics.
But there we have it. I think, we've set up an interesting discussion to follow on this. And Michael, would you want to start off, before I open it up for questions and answers, with some of the points that Suman raised, which is, she didn't disagree with a lot of what you're saying, but essentially said there has to be these things like ethics, regulation, and precaution. The words you don't like, but, and you can
first
tell us
of all,
why.
I like ethics and regulation. I think they're kind of good. There are a couple things I disagreed with, though. For instance, the idea that making the 1918 flu virus from scratch is a bad thing is extremely dangerous. Because do you know how we make vaccines in the world? We make them today the way we made them in 1930. We grow them in eggs. There's going to be a pandemic. It might be next year. It might be 11 years. It might be 27 years. There will be another massive pandemic. And when we grow vaccines in the 19th century tradition, we will die in the 19th century way. If we make vaccines as we can, and actually polio has been made from scratch, and I had written a story trashing the man who did it, and in my book I apologized to him, because what he was doing was putting the parts together. Because if you can put the parts together responsibly, you can figure out a way to attack the virus quickly with genetically made and rapidly assembled vaccines. And that's what we're going to need desperately. As to the precautionary principle, here are a couple things we wouldn't have if there was the extensive use of the idea that all the votes should be in before we ever try anything. We wouldn't have airplanes. We wouldn't have x-rays. We wouldn't have antibiotics. We wouldn't have vaccines. We wouldn't have television or radio. And we wouldn't have nuclear power, which I, for one, think is a great solution to one of the Earth's most pressing problems. So precaution, yes. Ethics, certainly. But let's not confuse, as I said in my talk, the greed of a company with the ability of science to accomplish things. Because I should also say that synthetic biology, to me, is not only a brave new world, it's the most exciting thing that's happened in human history. So I guess we disagree on that. I could say more, but that'll do for now.
Okay, I'm going to open this out. Suman, you want to have a quick sort of in, or let's have question and answers?
Yeah, I could.
Let's have some questions.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, let's have, anyone would like to ask a few questions? You made it so good. Okay. And then Chandan, yeah.
Hello, ma'am. This is Akshat. I have a question for you. You mentioned the fact that if water is made available to the land where only supposedly one crop is growing, then you mentioned the fact that if water is provided to that land, then 2 to 3 crops can be grown. But supporting the point which Mr. Spector mentioned, that on a daily basis, 100,000 people are becoming middle class right now. So how to cope up with it? That means the percentage of farmers is getting lower day by day. How to cope up with it? What do you suggest?
Can we take it now?
Yeah, if you can quickly.
Till you need food. Is this working?
Yeah.
Till you need food, you'll have to grow crops. And we can't do both things. We can't say that the middle class is increasing, and we can't say there's growing hunger. These are two contradictory statements. If we have growing hunger, and if we have growing population and we need to feed them, then we need to grow crops. And the way to grow crops is to get water into areas. Not necessarily. If you have a GM crop in an area that doesn't have water, it's not going to grow.
True.
So you have to have water, and there's plenty of stuff. There's plenty of seeds. There's plenty of kinds of crops that will grow. The defining lacuna is water, not the seed. So get the water, and you'll grow the crop.
You spoke Mr. Spector, you spoke of the ban on BT brinjal. My understanding as a layman from the newspapers is that it has not been banned, but that the minister, after his public hearings, found that out of some 22 tests that were supposed to be done, only 8 had been completed. Those 2 not by independent bodies, but entirely by the manufacturers, or largely by tests done by the manufacturers themselves. And therefore, all that they've said is to go back to the drawing board and complete the tests and then take a review.
I dispute those facts. There were dozens of independent tests taken. There have been dozens of independent studies elsewhere too. There's never been a clearer safety profile. And the question here, and it's a legitimate question for people to ask, is when is the risk outweighing the benefit? And when is the benefit good enough to let the risk exist? And I don't think those are always clear answers, but in this case I think it is a pretty clear answer. You know, as I said, with something like soybean or corn, it's not improved a lot of life for people, but there are dozens of new products about to come on the market that will help with drought resistance and virus. And the thing about water, I couldn't agree more, but getting water to the places where we need it is really tough. It can be done, but it can't be done easily. And I think we need to look at other solutions, and this is one of those solutions.
You know, I want to ask Suman just an add-on on this one. Michael, the points you'd raised, which is essentially, you know, politics and fear. Sometimes the arguments are not rational; they're more emotional. And now, Suman, you didn't, and the fear here. Part of that fear comes because of dependency. That if we buy seeds from Monsanto or for anybody else, what Suman talked of, the golden rice that we had, we would then be submitting ourselves to a new form of colonialism, where whether it's food, whether it's science, whether it's this, we are dependent completely again once more on Western or other technologies that's there. And, the costs of that, the fact that all our farmers would have to buy from a single source, and they would then have monopolies. I mean, these are issues that need to be addressed. And Suman, and after that, I know Michael, would you like to talk a bit, on this matter?
Sure. I think that as the debate has progressed on genetically engineered crops, there is a lot of crap being spoken, no question about it. But I think that when you're taking a serious view, you're sifting it out. You're sifting out the wheat from the chaff. But on the question of control over seed, I would say that's a socio-political aspect, not an emotional fear aspect. Who controls the seed will control, to a very large extent, the kind of agriculture that will be grown. Will we grow cash crops? Will we grow export-oriented crops? But let me tell you something else. Who is entitled to a patent? Who is entitled to that control? Here is a new variety of seed that has been created. How many steps does it take? Let us say 100. In the creation of a new variety on which a patent is claimed, if you have 100 steps, 80 to 90 steps have been contributed by farmers and by a range of other scientists. It is the last 5 to 10 steps, the sticking on of a gene, the taking away of a gene. This contribution of the last 5 to 10 steps normally makes the claim for controlling all 100 steps. And that is what a patent is. And that is why it is essentially incorrect, unethical, iniquitous, and unjust. That is why you cannot have a patent on a seed, because there are several contributors to it. But on the question of whether it is a fear psychosis, I wouldn't say fear psychosis. At least I don't share that fear psychosis. I would want to put things in perspective and say that there is a question of control on seed. If you have a weak legal framework, if you have not had sufficient training in filing for intellectual property, and your scientists and your lawyers are not trained to play that game, it's a game. Give me a patent on biology, and I will tell you how to crack it. Not because I'm so smart, every biologist can. It's semantics.
I think Michael's
so there's
waiting
politics.
Michael, please go ahead. You've been...
First of all, on the issue of patents, I couldn't agree more strongly. In fact, I think I do agree more strongly. But those are legal issues, and I am absolutely, completely convinced that they can be addressed. But I think that a lot, and I don't mean you, but I think a lot of people who oppose genetically engineered products use that very legitimate problem as a smokescreen for others. And I'll give you an example. Artemisinin is the most important drug used to treat malaria. It's grown mostly in Asia and Africa. It's subject to difficult conditions, weather. If you don't get it out of the ground quickly, the leaves will turn cyanotic. It's a very touchy drug, and people need it desperately. Jay Kiesling at the University of California invented an artificial synthetic biology version of artemisinin. It's fake. It's made in a lab. And you know what? You can make all the artemisinin that you need in the world in one vat that would easily fit on this platform. It can be regulated properly. It can be made in a much safer way than it's made now. And the first thing Jay and the University of California did was they patented everything they did so that they could give it away for free, and they have gone on the record publicly and said this is public domain, common ground, anyone can have it, and everyone who wants it has taken it for free. One World Health is marketing it for nothing. This is a great thing, but still you have the complaints. The farmers will be put out of work. The 5,000 farmers will be put out of work.
In the United States?
No, actually in Africa. We don't grow artemisinin in the United States. It's grown in Africa and Asia. And 5,000 farmers will be put out of work. 2 million people die of malaria every year. I mean, where is the perspective? Every number has a numerator and a denominator, a top and a bottom. You can't just say 5,000 farmers are being put out of work. If they're being put out of work for something horrible, wrong, stupid, greedy, it's wrong. If it's being put out of work because life has moved on to the point where we can cure the agony of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, then let's find those 5,000 people other jobs and move on.
Michael, but